The human-horse bond nobody talks about. Most people would probably expect a title like this to be about horses. That is true. But the closer you look, the larger and stranger the story becomes. Because in reality, it does not begin with horses. It begins with a question about humans. Throughout history, humans have lived alongside countless animal species. They kept cattle, sheep, goats, and dogs. Many of these animals were essential for survival. And yet it is the horse, of all animals, that seems to occupy a special place. That is strange. Horses do not normally live under the same roof as we do. They do not follow us through daily life. Their first instinct is not closeness, but flight. And yet, for thousands of years, people have reported a connection that seems to go far beyond simple cooperation. Some people spend several hours every day with their horses. Others travel long distances just to spend a few moments with them. If you ask them why this animal is so special to them, the answer is often surprisingly difficult to explain. And perhaps that is the real mystery. Because whenever people talk about extraordinary trust between two completely different living beings, horses appear again and again. Not only today, this pattern also appears repeatedly in stories, legends, and historical accounts. But why horses? Why did a bond develop between a prey animal and a species that spent much of its history as a hunter? A bond that many people still describe as extraordinary today? And why do so many people report that horses react to things other people do not even notice? To understand these questions, we first need to go back, long before horses became symbols, long before humans gave them names, to a time when this relationship served a completely different purpose. Before people described horses as friends, companions, or even family members, they first changed something much more fundamental. They shrank the world. It sounds strange, but today it feels completely normal. If someone wants to visit a friend on the other side of the country, they get into a car or book a flight. Most of us are so used to this that we rarely think about it. For a person living 1,000 years ago, the world looked completely different. Distances were real obstacles. A merchant, a family, or a ruler could often travel only as far as their own legs could carry them. Then horses arrived. Suddenly, messages could cross entire kingdoms. Merchants reached new markets. People migrated into regions that had once seemed unreachable. In a sense, the world became larger because horses made it smaller. The strange thing about major changes is that eventually they become invisible. Nobody is amazed that a car can cover a distance of 100 kilometers in about an hour. You simply get in and drive. Something similar probably happened with horses. What was once revolutionary eventually became normal. But this is where the story becomes interesting. Millions of horses helped humans with work, trade, and travel. Most disappeared from history without a name. They were useful and valuable. But in the end, they were tools. And yet, there are always individual horses that people remembered for years, sometimes even for generations. Horses that were given names. Horses that appeared in chronicles, legends, and later in books. Horses whose deaths were recorded as though more than just an animal had been lost. Why did something emerge with this particular animal that sometimes went far beyond simple cooperation? With horses, this tendency goes much further. People describe them as brave, stubborn, kind, curious, or sensitive. Anyone who spends time with horse owners quickly notices that many of them are not simply talking about an animal, they are talking about someone. Honestly, it can sometimes be difficult to tell whether they are describing a horse or a distant relative. This is not a modern phenomenon. Centuries ago, horses already appeared in myths, religions, and heroic stories. They were given roles, character traits, and sometimes almost a personality of their own. That is remarkable because people also worked with oxen, donkeys, and camels. Yet horses frequently became symbols of freedom, courage, or loyalty. Perhaps that is what made horses special, not merely helpers, but mirrors. People saw qualities in them that they admired, feared, or wished to possess themselves. But why does this particular animal hold such symbolic power? Perhaps the answer lies in a trait that does not sound especially impressive at first. As prey animals, horses survived for millions of years by detecting the smallest changes in their environment. For us humans, that is far from automatic. We rely primarily on words. If someone says everything is fine, we usually accept it. What remains hidden behind the voice, the posture, or subtle tension often goes unnoticed. Horses live in a different world. For them, uncertainty, tension, or conflicting signals could once mean the difference between life and death. That is why they pay attention to details that humans often ignore. Many writers describe a similar experience. They try to appear calm while feeling nervous inside. The horse reacts anyway. You cannot fool it. Honestly, I find this part of the story the most fascinating. Humans can deceive other humans. We do it all the time, in job interviews, on first dates, sometimes even during family visits at Christmas. Horses, on the other hand, are simply honest. That explains part of the fascination. But the longer you think about it, the harder it becomes to explain the connection through perception alone. Even people who have never ridden a horse often describe the same special status this animal seems to hold. Could there be something more fundamental behind it? Our brains seem to be constantly searching for relationships. It is often not enough for us to simply use things. We want to form a connection with them. That makes horses a particularly interesting case. They are neither humans nor typical pets, yet they are intelligent enough to respond to us, and large enough that they can never be completely predictable. This combination may be the key. Horses are close enough for trust, yet distant enough to remain fascinating. And between those two poles, something emerges that has occupied people for centuries. What if the special connection to horses is not really about horses in the first place? Most interactions in our daily lives take place within invisible systems of evaluation. In professional life, people care about experience, success, or status. On social media, reach, attention, and numbers matter. Even during a first meeting, impressions form within seconds, and we consciously or unconsciously evaluate them. This is completely normal. Humans do it constantly. Horses do not. A horse does not care what job someone has. It does not know how much money is sitting in a bank account, and it will not be impressed if someone has 10,000 more followers than their neighbor. Something emerges here that has become surprisingly rare in modern life. Most encounters between people are shaped by expectations, by status, experience, success, or the image others have of us. A horse knows none of these systems. Could the real attraction lie in encountering a different form of perception? A perception that does not ask who we are in society, but only how we behave in this moment. And that may be far rarer than we think. Human history is usually told as a story of tools, of inventions and technologies, of things that expanded our reach and increased our possibilities. Horses undoubtedly belong to that story. They transported people, moved goods, and connected regions. Without them, the world would have looked completely different for a very long time. Perhaps we have been looking at the story from the wrong direction all along. The question may not be what humans did with horses. It may be what horses did with humans. People spend their entire lives trying to understand other people, and even then, they often succeed only partially. Thoughts remain hidden. Feelings go unspoken. No one can ever experience the world exactly as another person does. By all logic, that barrier should be even greater with another species. And yet, for centuries, people have reported a connection with horses that they struggle to explain. Perhaps that is the surprising insight. The horse's special role may not come from humans understanding horses. It may come from the fact that they never fully can. And perhaps that is why this connection continues to fascinate people today. Because if trust can emerge between two living beings that perceive the world in completely different ways, what relationships in our own lives might also be built on something we still do not fully understand?